Oh, did our funny thing not
Oh,
get
no.
recorded?
Can they not hear us? Now they can hear us.
Good.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show. We were just making jokes, and you couldn't hear any of them. I thought it was a pretty funny one,
That's
too.
a good one.
Yeah, that was a good intro. Lost to the dunes of a lack of audio.
Gone forever.
Well, you'll never hear the jokes now. We'll put those on the DVD commentary one day. Welcome to the PC Gamer Show. My name is Tom Marks, associate editor here. It changes so much. I don't know. Welcome. We got a great show for you, as always. Joining me today is Mr. Evan Lottie. How you doing, Evan?
What's up? I'm good. PAX was fun. I wasn't there. I just benefited from all your guys' cool stuff, and we're going to talk about some of that, like BattleTech.
Yeah, you're pumped about that. And I'm pumped that I did not lose the demo, which... When you have the creator of BattleTech behind you while you're playing BattleTech going, you're not doing too good. Like,
It's like scrutinizing your Centurion moves.
Yeah, it's
and your
not.
Mad Cat.
It's not a good feeling.
Dang.
We also have James Davenport with
Hello.
us. James, who was actually at PAX.
I was there.
Are you alive? Did you make it through? I'm still a little scratchy.
Yeah, my voice is shot a bit, but here I am on the podcast, going to talk for like an hour. But I mean, I feel all right. I think I feel rejuvenated in a lot of ways.
You guys
because
came
of
back
PAX.
with most of your blood. It's
Yes. Ron Gilbert has some of it still, but
Oh, God.
it's another story.
Well, we do have a real good show for you. We're going to, of course, be starting with what we've been playing recently. Part of that is that Evan's been playing a lot of the Battlefield 1 beta and been super into it, too, which is cool.
Yeah, I've got some criticisms too.
All right.
I'm not all sunshine and Battlefield rainbows, but
And then
good.
we'll, like Evan said, we will be talking about what we played at PAX, kind of the best stuff, what we liked or didn't like. We're also probably going to sneak in a little bit somewhere in here talking about Mass Effect Andromeda just briefly at the beginning of the show, because for those of you who weren't just watching it, they just showed some gameplay of it for I think the first time at this Sony conference that's going on. So that's pretty cool. And then, of course, we'll be taking your questions from Twitch chat at the end. So stick around if you've got any questions for us. But first, let's talk about what we've been playing recently. I'm going to start this week because I had one of those moments that I haven't had in a long time last night, where, if you remember last week, I mentioned I was really kind of hoping for or looking for like one of those automated builder games, right?
Yeah.
Like Prison Architect or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I jumped into RimWorld
You did it.
because I was like, there's going to be a tutorial. And so I played the tutorial, and then I went, oh, this tutorial is like, it just teaches you like the buttons and then you're done. Like it doesn't really teach you how to play. And I had this moment in the tutorial where they send a raider at you. I don't know if you guys have played the tutorial, but they're like, equip your guys, then build a barricade. And now I'm going to send a raider at you, and you got to defend yourself. And it's supposed to be just like a simple little tutorial thing. So
how'd it go?
it didn't go great. I barricaded my guys. I gave them weapons, and then the raider came and he hid behind like the tutorial building that they had me build, shooting at my guys with their weapons. For the record, I thought this game was really cool. Like, and it's not the fault of the game that I didn't take the time to learn its systems, right? Like, it's a very, very cool game. But I noticed that the raider had taken like 3 bullets or something, and my guys were also getting shot. And I was like, man, people are way more durable in this game than I thought they were. And then suddenly, my guys just start shooting in like the opposite direction of the raider, and I'm like, what the hell is going on right now? And my little Yorkshire Terrier dog that you get like comes along with your crew was being attacked by a fox on the opposite side of the raider, shooting at them.
No.
So like for about half the fight of the duration of this fight, my colonists were just shooting at a fox, missing terribly.
Tom, it's called target prioritization.
Like I wouldn't have even minded if they like hit this fox and it was dead, and then they went back to shooting the raider, because like I liked this dog, I wanted it to live. But like they hit the fox like 3 times, missed like 800 times, and then the fox kills the dog, and then drops dead. And I'm like, fuck.
But you got such a good story out of it.
I know.
And that's the point in these weird.
This was
dwarf
tutorial?
fantasy
This was the
games.
fucking tutorial.
That's the most RimWorld tutorial.
Systems games are the worst, man.
That's a really good headline, though. RimWorld's tutorial killed my dog. But I'm not even mad.
But like the crazy thing
Cynthia's
about this,
mad.
I am mad. The crazy thing about this is I finally like one of my people goes down.
Yeah.
They get shot so much. The other one is like wounded real bad, and I finally like flank the guy because I realize it's not like the like Dwarf Fortress and stuff where you can't directly control them. Like you can kind of do a little bit of RTS in it. So I start to flank the guy and I take him out. He's not dead. We leave him bleeding there on the ground for 3 days. Ooh. And over those 3 days, and after the 3 days I quit because over those 3 days, the person who was down is bedridden the entire time. Then her brother, which I really like that the game does that, like kind of gives these little like family stories just to randomized characters. Her brother, who's tending to her wounds at her bedside, then suffers from a major infection from a bullet wound he got in this fight. Both of them are completely bedridden. The only person I have left is like a 74-year-old guy who it seems like every goddamn morning he wakes up and goes by this lake and like lies on the ground looking at the clouds for like at least 2 hours before he does anything else. Mourning
That's
his
sweet.
dog, I
That's
imagine.
sweet.
Like
Sounds like you got a good colony going.
God damn, dude. I
tutorial.
I couldn't take it. Like it was the only time I've ever completed the tutorial of a game and then been like, like this game is unplayable. Like I have to restart. Not like the game as a whole.
Okay,
like
yeah,
that
yeah.
one. Like I couldn't believe it.
That's so good. That's a great first experience to have with RimWorld.
Fucking
That
Fox.
makes me want to play more. Like I want to go back.
Well, I wanna give the time
Yeah,
to it.
yeah,
But then
yeah.
I started playing Prison Architect at like 10 p.m.
Oh,
and
cool.
like 5 minutes later I checked the time and it was 1 a.m. and I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
perfect.
okay. Yeah, I want to go back to RimWorld, but oh my god, that tutorial experience was like, I just could not believe it. And the funny thing is, because it was all procedural, right? Like it just happened.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went into Prison Architect. I'm still doing the campaigns, like learning how to play the game. And I got to the campaign where it was like, there's a riot in your prison. Like you got to solve this riot. And it like actually felt way less intense to try to like stop a 90 prisoner riot with like SWAT guys because it was all like scripted. Then this like moment that this fox was distracting my like militia was like, oh god, it was so ridiculous. So that was my
Wow.
recent games.
You hit it hard right after PAX.
I know, man. I didn't slow down.
Okay.
Well, I had that thing where we got back from PAX and like all we were doing for 4 days was playing video games. Like, and I was just like, man, I just want to relax and play some video games. Like,
It's true.
and then RimWorld happened. Jesus Christ.
Video games is hard work.
It is.
Well, what about you guys? What have you been playing lately?
Yeah, that Battlefield 1 beta we'll talk about a little bit more. I think I'm done playing Master of Orion. God. Put about 26 hours into it total, and it's a nice 4X game. I talked about it last week. You should play it if you've been previously intimidated by 4X games, but it's sort of shallow in some certain ways. Like it rolls out these really colorful, well-animated personalities that kind of like if you've seen the Civilization 6 faction videos, I think one of the best things about Civ 6 seemingly is how expressive those leaders are. You've got Teddy Roosevelt, and he's like gesticulating and moving around, and he's got his tiny glasses and just tons of character, for you to kind of attach onto. And Master of Orion has that, but the factions don't really play any differently. They all have access to the same tech tree. Their victory conditions are the same, but they have different like pluses and minuses and stats that you'd expect. But like you're interacting with like the super sciencey race or like the hive mind, robotic Borg race, and they all kind of feel the same, and that's kind of a disappointment for sure. So it didn't really fulfill all of its promises, but it's still a charming 4X game.
Cool.
Yeah.
On my end, after PAX, I also wanted to relax with some video games. So
Like you do.
yeah, and I don't know. I got it into my head before PAX when all the hubbub around Legion came out. I'm gonna try WoW. I haven't played WoW since Cataclysm, I think, and I played it for like a month. So I'm playing WoW again, and it's WoW. It's still WoW. It strikes me.
Wait, was that it's WoW as in capital W, capital W, or it's WoW as in lower cases?
it's both.
Oh, okay.
I
Cool.
guess it's very good at being WoW, which is it's an MMO that has been out for over a decade now, and it's I think as an artifact of like game design that's been like forced into this sort of like tight shell and forced to like change and grow within it a little bit is it's incredibly interesting, but it's also super limited. So Legion it's great because it kicks you off in this like really I'm playing a demon hunter, and the demon hunter campaign basically plays out like this really elaborate Diablo fan fiction campaign. You start off in like this green hellish realm, and you're fighting basically Diablo villains and the demon hunters sort of, I think, what did I describe them as this morning, Tom? Is like
Protoss, yeah.
Protoss who shop at Hot Topic.
Right.
Oh my god.
So,
Oh, that's so good.
yeah, I mean, it's like Blizzard.
Oh man.
Their playbook is pretty thin in terms of lore, but it's almost endearing because everything in the expansion so far, like having not touched WoW in a long time, it was still fairly like tame, high cartoony fantasy, and it's just gone off the fucking rails. It's so ridiculous. And Tom even explained to me, like, I guess the last campaign had a spaceship literally crashed down, and that was like
that was a little while ago.
that was a little while
Yeah,
back.
The
See, I've been out of the loop, and now you're like in hell, and you're traveling through time and doing all this shit. And one of the quests I did like involved basically giving an ancient wise old dragon bath salts for his bath so he could, his bones wouldn't ache. It's so ridiculous and cartoony.
I feel like we need some sort of like mathematical formula or theoretical law to describe the way that multiplayer games in particular, given enough time, will all become more whimsical. Like if you look at League of Legends, TF2, even Overwatch now with the integration of the Olympics stuff, you could argue it's like more colorful and lively and playful. Like basically any game with cosmetic stuff that you earn or can buy, the way to like add different themes and get people in there is to do weird shit basically.
And yeah, it's true. I mean, like I'm just running around a town and I see so many bonkers mounts, like just creatures I've like looked like a crustacean. Some guys like riding a giant fucking lobster, and there you have like little pets following them around. And there's like I saw a mini Winston like run by from Overwatch, and I mean it's all super ridiculous, and it's relatively the same from what I remember, in that you're, you tap in abilities in you're an optimized order on your ability bar to take down, pretty basic enemies and enemy mobs. But it's still fun to kind of, progress your character and do some of the more social activities in WoW and go through the dungeons. And I mean, you see that today in big games now, are sort of taking a lot of the that's the social element, like dungeons in Destiny, and maybe that's it. There's other games that do it, but it's a tried and true formula, and there's a reason a lot of people play it. I don't see myself sticking with it in the long haul for like raids and raids months in, but it's been a cool experience to kind of dip my feet back in the strange waters.
Bell Sauce in the
Wowders.
chat points out that EVE Online is definitely not whimsical over time.
Oh, that's fair.
Fair. Yeah.
But also, I feel like EVE Online does whatever the hell it wants all the time, forever, right? Like EVE is its own little bubble of a thing, and in a good way. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, I'm actually excited to jump into that.
Yeah.
Whenever it gets the free to play access added. I'm scared of it, like we were talking about last week.
November.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. But let's jump right along. Let's talk about Battlefield 1, man, because that's also what you've been really playing lately.
Yeah.
And tell us, enlighten us, because there were some
going
people
on with
asking
that?
about it in the chat last week, and we just hadn't played it yet.
Yeah, it had gone live, but the servers were down initially. So it ends tomorrow on the 8th, I believe. So you do have a little bit of time. If you haven't tried it out yet, it's free. Just if you have Origin, you can download it. You don't need any special key or redemption or whatever. It is one map. It is two modes on that map. Conquest, which is the 64-player capture the flags for have as many of them as long as possible. It's actually they've changed conquest. It used to be about tickets, right? If you played Battlefield, where you're whittling down a supply of lives essentially that the enemy team has. That's not even part of this anymore. It's,
oh wow.
You're just racking up points. I think and actually I don't want to jump too far ahead. Right. That's basically the setup. And there's also rush mode, which is 12 on 12, attack and defend, same map, but you're attacking 2 points at a time of I think 6 or 8. I think there's 8 points total on the map. So yeah, it's really good. So, and I say that as someone who's not really a Battlefield fan. I was coming in, we were joking a couple weeks ago when we're like, okay, the Battlefield 1 beta is coming out. Well, I probably shouldn't write about it because I don't really like it. But I ended up doing it sort of thinking I would write something critical, but I ended up writing something really positive, which is like a great surprise. Yeah. And I think like the number one takeaway for me was this is a scrappier Battlefield.
Yes.
And in a way that I really, really like. I mean, I did review Battlefield 4 for us. I liked it then, but I didn't end up playing it for a long time. And I just sort of, the battles don't have a lot of meaning for me. Typically, like, it's sort of a game where you're just, the customization system is a big part of Battlefield, I know, and I know fans really love that aspect of the game. But for me, Battlefield 4 had 19 assault rifles, and all of the fucking attachments you stick onto those weapons. Like, at what point, like an AK-12 versus an M4, A4, like, what's the difference? It's like every gun is like, feels very like personal in that way, but it just sort of removes the whole idea of counters and like, okay, I see this guy has an AK, like I know sort of what his limitations are, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in this case, like Battlefield is really embraced. People talked a lot about the setting. Is it really? This isn't World War One. Like World War One is fought in trenches, and it's amazing how many people come out of the woodworks and they're all World War One experts, despite being 16 fucking years old. I love that, but. Whatever. Who cares? I mean, sure. This is like World War 1.5. It's it's a greatest hits edition of World War One, which is terrible. That's a terrible concept.
But it's what it is.
But it's sort of taking like, yes, there were giant armored war trains.
Yes.
That was a thing that somebody made that. That's a thing that you can have in this map. Like one side gets a train that just rolls through the map, and you can operate turrets on it. There were giant bomber planes. Sure, like. In this battle or that battle, you could point to that. There were cavalry. There were, they put everything into one condensed, hyper realized version, basically. And it's not about realism. It's about what's fun, right? For me, at least. And what's really good, though, what I think they've taken out of World War One and Two and whatever you want to say in between is they've embraced some of the limitations of the weapons that you would expect, like. When you're holding a World War I assault rifle, you don't expect to tag somebody at 200, 300 meters with like your fourth bullet or something, So you see somebody at range with, and I've unlocked as many of the weapons as I could, it's really hard to tag people. The sniper rifle dials up to a maximum of 300 meters, okay? You can type into YouTube like just Battlefield 4, like, long range sniping.
It's bonkers.
People doing like 1.4 kilometer kills and stuff, just all kinds of crazies. You can still do that, but you have to aim super high and you have to make all kinds of crazy adjustments. But the takeaway is like just the basic assault rifle. It's a struggle to knock somebody down. Like just what I feel like would have been in a lot of cases like a gimme in Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Battlefield Hardline. Somebody is like 60 meters away from me. I see them. They're running laterally to me, and it's like, okay, I'll just hold down mouse 1 and I'll get them, like guaranteed. In this case, I'll get them, but I have to like make adjustments. I have to use my whole magazine, so I have to be forced to and it's like that with almost every weapon. The support class, which uses like light machine guns, the sniper. Like I said, it's really hard to dial people in, at least for me. The medic, they're not exactly the most powerful class right now in the game, so. I love the little struggles that arise. You can still like pull off cool triple kills and stuff like that, but I really like that they've embraced the limitations of the era that you would expect from the technology. It's both an asset to you. You have these massive tanks, which is a big new part of the game. But like, for example, when you jump into one of those vehicles, so when you elect to spawn in a plane, a bomber, or like cavalry or something, or a tank, you're given a different weapon set. So you're no longer like an assault character or a sniper or a medic. You don't spawn as that. You spawn as like the tank guy, and the tank guy has this like really weak kind of repeating carbine or something. And so you're given this trade-off. Like, okay, you want the tank? Like, you're going to take the tank, but when it blows up, you're going to have a super shitty, like, baby rifle, basically. And you'll feel cool if you get a kill or two with it. But it's this nice trade-off that I don't think would have been the case in previous Battlefield games.
Yeah, and I think I played the I forget what the name they used, the open alpha or closed alpha back a couple months ago on a different map, and it definitely felt like that. Everything felt tighter and closer despite the huge map sizes. The encounters were much tighter, and I remember specifically there's a hill on that map that typically there's these buildings at the bottom that if they're not blown up, the enemy team is holed into. And there's some sandbags up top where your offensive team is trying to capture your opponent at the bottom, and because the weapons there's much a higher skill ceiling for most of them. Suppression feels like a much more important tactic in Battlefield 1.
And they've really dialed down spotting. That's another thing. Like, you can't just spam Q in all situations and just like, okay, I'm going to spot these three guys at 100 meters. Like, you have to be selective about when exactly like you have your cursor. You have to be precise and selective in the timing, and you can't just like group spot.
Yeah, just look
5
at
dudes or whatever. So I think that's like a small but actually like really useful adjustment. Because it kind of discourages a pretty lame style of gameplay, honestly, where you're just sitting there and spamming Q and getting points, But yeah, like what you're talking about with the weapons, almost every weapon feels like it has an interesting trade-off. Yeah. And it usually takes the form of the gun just takes up a shitload of screen when you go into the iron sights, or the iron sights are kind of bad, intentionally bad though. So there's like the Madsen MG, which is like the second tier LMG for the support character. And it has this massive vertical magazine. Yeah. And it shoots a little bit faster than the one you get or whatever. But the magazine takes up like an entire block of this, like a seventh or something of the screen. And you're suddenly losing that. It's not even peripheral vision. It's like right almost in the middle.
It's just vision.
Yeah. So if like you're shooting at a guy and to his left is another guy, you're just not going to see him. Yeah. And that's definitely the case with vehicle weapons, where you're like very
tight,
sort of vignetted in. But also like gun emplacements. So there's a big focus on gun emplacements as like a form of AT. There's not a lot of AT to go around in the game right now, in the beta. So like when you hop in one of these static MGs, you're looking through this like very narrow slit basically, and just trying to peg people, and you're really losing your peripheral vision. So I think that's just a totally interesting change. It embraces the theme of the war, where things feel a little bit grittier and more difficult. And what it results in is, I think, the most interesting infantry combat we've had in a Battlefield game. So yeah, I don't know. It's just sort of gotten me thinking about, wow, like, does Battlefield belong closer to 1942 than it does to 20,000 whatever, 2,000 whatever, near future settings. Yeah. So I think it's great. I think the series could stay here, frankly. I kind of hope it does.
I mean, that's where the series got its roots, right? Yep. Was 1942. So I guess it makes sense that the mechanics, although, a lot has changed since then, the mechanics that were invented for this series in that setting make more sense when they go back to that setting.
But what's great about it in comparison to World War II is I think it actually gives them a lot more freedom, and I'm so glad they've embraced this. And this is something that, since the announcement, people have just been hammering them. A certain amount of people have been hammering them for, again, I mentioned at the beginning, but this isn't World War I. This is, it's fought in the trenches, and World War I is supposed to be boring and mustard gas and blah, blah, blah. Giant blimps, what is that? But because people are less familiar with World War I, or in fact, like, World War II has been so overdone and so overrepresented in media and movies and everything, they have more flexibility, because they don't have to adhere to, okay, a World War II battle looks like this and had these kind of tanks, and the soldiers wear these kind of uniforms, and it only happened in these kind of theaters. I mean, again, it's only one map, the beta. It's kind of not a lot to judge the entire experience on, but I love this map. Like, it's for being a literal desert that's barren and has very little cover. There's some really smart decisions that they've made to give you little points of cover and little ditches that you can dive in along the way that feel original and interesting. They don't overdo it with the city setting. One of my big criticisms of Battlefield's urban settings is like they just feel like every building feels like the next one. There's kind of no interesting distinguishing points, and they all kind of blend together.
Yeah.
I can't think about like blocks and neighborhoods and like subregions within that. And it's terrific for vehicle combat. I mean, it's terrific to kind of roll a tank through the open desert. And there's none of the levolution junk. I mean, they have sandstorms, but I've kind of in dozens of matches that I've played, I think I've only encountered 2 like of the serious sandstorms. Like, Battlefield 4, that's a game that literally dropped a building on you. You can't get less subtle than you can pull up a skyscraper and it'll fall on you, and then that becomes the capture point, man. Or like, and then there's a crazy hurricane that throws an aircraft carrier or a destroyer or whatever it was at you on the beach, and like that was cool at the time.
Yeah.
But when it's happening every match,
becoming numb to a building.
Dude.
Yeah, if only it's.
So there's just so much more interesting subtlety, like. The sand will blow in the air, not as an event, like, hey guys, this is a sandstorm, get ready, like, but like the sand will just kind of blow on its own a little bit, like it'll be a little hazy, and I'll lose a guy at 80 meters away or something. I'll miss my 5th shot at him, because of that visibility change, or it's just a little bit of atmosphere here and there that kicks up. So I'm really interested to see what they do with the other maps. I hope they're not just sort of World War II, French cities and stuff like that. I know that was kind of one of the ones we saw in the alpha. But I mean, so far so good.
I got one question.
Go.
How's the horse?
I've been staying off the horse because it's a huge target. The horse independently takes damage of you. Other people have been raving about it. I think. What's probably most important, it controls extremely well.
Good. That's good to hear.
Compared to, say, The Witcher 3 and other horses, which do not. Yeah. Oh, hey, that's my footage, me shooting this guy.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up a clip of a really cool just kind of moment that you did in this game.
Can you go to the beginning, actually?
Yeah.
So, like, right at the... I just love this, watch this screen shake right at the beginning here with the rocks that kick up. Right here, boom. Like... That just feels totally in line with the setting. Like, it feels grittier to me. Like, I can kind of feel the sand, and you can see it kicking up into my scope there, and there's a lot of smoke, and I think that's actually like a mustard gas grenade or something. So, I don't know. It just feels super at home, at least on this map, in this setting.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Looks great, too.
Yeah.
It's very pretty.
Yeah, it's there was a question actually in the chat. Somebody, what is it, Sigan, I don't know how to say the end of that, but Sigan said, last time I played, things weren't explodey enough, saying howitzer shells didn't break buildings. And I actually wanted to ask about that specifically. Like, what's the destruction and the destructibility of the levels like? Can buildings be destroyed? Because obviously you're not going to have something like, that tower falling or the skyscraper falling, like you were saying. But what about just, like, the base level blowing up walls and stuff like that?
I would say it's quite destructible to the extent that, so the bomber drops bombs, and when they hit the sand, they actually form these circular divots in the sand that you can hide in, like wherever they land. Yeah. So that's cool. If they miss you, they become like this defensive little emplacement, and you're like, thanks, buddy. So I don't know. I mean, I really need to watch side by side and make the Battlefield Bad Company 2 comparison, which I know everybody wants to talk about, and somehow that game has become the best Battlefield game for reasons I understand, I guess. I'm not as crazy about it. When you shoot a house with a tank, it blows up in the way you expect. It's good. When a plane crashes into a village, it'll shear off a wall. It works. It's good.
That was always one of the things that appealed to me about the Battlefield series over Call of Duty was the destructibility. I loved that if somebody was hiding out in a house, you could just blow a hole in the wall and take them from that side.
Still the case.
So that's nice to hear.
That's absolutely there. I mean, it's certainly not at the sort of resolution of Rainbow Six Siege, for example, where you're firing individual bullet holes through a wall and then shooting through those bullet holes to like get better penetration.
But Siege has much smaller maps.
Yes. So you're definitely carving out big chunks of walls. You're not sort of poking holes, but that's, I think, what people expect. So if you play Bad Company 2, I can't imagine you being disappointed with the implementation of destruction here.
I love the way you say that, by the way, because it's just so knowing, right? Like, this feels like a game where, because Bad Company 2 was the last Battlefield I played seriously or for an extended period of time. And there's kind of this buzz around Battlefield 1 in a very, like, it's going to appeal to you if you liked that game sort of way. Maybe that's just me, and maybe that's just my excitement for this Battlefield. But you said if you played Bad Company 2, you'll like this, and it's like, just forget about those middle games there. We don't need to talk about those. But yeah, well, thank you for the update. Thank you for the thoughts and the sweet frags in that video.
Sure thing. Like,
hella good frags.
I think there is still a lot to discover. I mean, again, it's one map. You couldn't modify weapons in the beta. That's definitely a big thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't know what the campaign really looks like if you care about that stuff. So still a lot to learn, but so far so good based on this initial test.
Cool. Well, let's jump along and talk about lots of different games at PAX West.
Oh, geez.
We saw so many damn things, James.
Look at my calendar.
Yeah, I know.
You guys did like 30-some videos?
We've done over 30 videos already. We have, when it's all said and done, we'll be just around 40 total from the 4 days. And that's a lot of gameplay videos, just like straight gameplay recordings, a lot of interviews, mostly interviews. And I saw some comments about this actually on the site on PCGamer.com about like, oh, are you guys abandoning writing? And it's like, no, it's just, it's so much easier to go to a 4-day event and just put a camera in someone's face and talk to them that way than it is to interview them and then transcribe that and post it. So yeah, we just love getting as much of the stuff from the show as we could. And I went to PAX South and PAX East this year, and there was so much good stuff at PAX West.
Oh my gosh.
It was unbelievable. Orders of magnitude more stuff, it felt like, than there were at the other two events. I don't know if I was just wrong about that or like what the deal was, but like it was incredible.
I mean, it's the first PAX. I think people treat it as the mothership.
PAX
it's also the one that immediately precedes the holiday season. You know, number of reasons there, I think. So what was, I don't know if you guys want to talk about the best stuff you saw. But,
yeah. I mean, I can start with what I thought was best in show.
Yeah.
I think we both sort of agree. It's the most intriguing for us.
So the best thing I personally, I played, and I think that just the best thing that we saw at PAX was Oxygen Not Included. And I'm going to pull
the first thing you saw.
The very first thing. 10 a.m. Friday morning, I played Oxygen Not Included, and nothing lived up to it.
Saw a lot of great stuff.
Like it just set such a high bar. And I'm going to pull up. We're going to be pulling up some gameplay videos of some of the stuff we recorded during this segment. So anybody who's listening on the podcast, you can always go to youtube.com/PCGamer, and we'll have a PAX West 2016 playlist there, and you can just find all of that stuff. And you can watch it for yourself because it's a lot of really, really good stuff that we did. So this is actually, I'm going to just skip ahead a little into it. This is the very first time that Clay, the people who made Don't Starve, showed Oxygen Not Included, which was their kind of a Dwarf Fortressy style space colony builder. And the hilarious thing is, last week on the show, I said, man, I really was looking for a Dwarf Fortressy style building game. And we didn't know what Oxygen Not Included was going to be then. And I was still craving that game going into PAX. And then first day, I play this game, and I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Be careful what you wish for, Tom.
So the thing that you're seeing right now in this video is the little purple area is CO2, and all of the blue areas is oxygen. So the game is crazy systems-based. So you can see right now, like, I'll pause it for a sec.
You got, like, air propagation, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So these guys were down here digging, and they were breathing out too much CO2, and it was displacing all of the oxygen. So now they're digging with their breath like with holding their breath, and you can actually see it in their animations. If I go back a little bit, like you can see her cheeks are a little puffed up, and then they'll be suffocating, and then they'll go, oh God, what do we do? And they'll run to where the oxygen is, take a few big heaving breaths, and then go back to digging once they have oxygen.
Some great personality.
So, like, I mean, you talk to them.
Yeah.
Did you at all figure out, like, why that's an interesting system to them? I mean, it's literally the name of the game, so it must be important to them. Or I know the setting is in space and everything, but what's interesting about that mechanic as other than it's a limitation? It's a constraint.
I think the way that this thing they kept saying to me was, we want people to be able to min-max if they want to. We want people to be able to get really, really into the nitty-gritty if they want to do that. So if you click on one of those people, if you click on one of those tiles with the oxygen view open, it'll say the amount of like kilograms to a decimal point of oxygen or CO2 is in the air. Then if you click a person, it'll say how much they're breathing in, how much oxygen they need, how long they have until they suffocate and die, what their body temperature is, what the temperature of the air is, how quickly they're adjusting for that temperature. Here I built an oxygenator, and then I had to build a generator. And the very first generator, it's like man-powered. It's like a big hamster wheel.
I see that.
And so then they had to, in order to oxygenate the air, you need someone on this hamster wheel pumping it. And so then they had me build batteries so that I didn't have to do that. See, here, I'll pause this real quick. This is one of the daily reports, and obviously this is an early version of this game, so a lot of these UIs are going to change still. But, like, oxygen generation for cycle 1 for today is we added 1,800 grams of oxygen. We removed 107.3 kilograms, which is a net of minus 105.5 kilograms of oxygen. And then, like, the stress change, the calories of food we generated compared to the calories of food consumed during that day, the amount of kilojoules of energy used. Like, it gets crazy in depth with all these systems.
So it's just super unabstracted.
Yes.
You know, it's not like this guy has 50 hit points.
No.
It's really representing the science and math, which is an interesting approach in a game set in space where, you know, air and water are kind of the most valuable things in space. You need them to do anything.
I'm surprised they don't have like a bone density stat in the
Is like
screens.
lung capacity a stat on these guys?
It might be. I'm not actually sure. They just like fell asleep on the ground as soon as night hit.
Sure.
The funny thing about this game also is that you're controlling what they're called duplicants.
Right.
Yes.
And you're sending them off to like this terrible godforsaken mining rock. So like literally you're playing the like the owner of the replicants from Blade Runner. Like that is the job you have is running these like replicant mining facilities that are like terrible conditions. And then so now I'm placing down batteries, and when they build the batteries once they wake up, that'll store some of the energy so you don't need someone running the hamster wheel the whole time. But then the batteries and the machines generate heat, which heats up the air around the area, which makes them uncomfortable. So you have to build a cooler, but then the cooler requires someone to be manning it, and then so on and so forth forever and ever and ever.
So super high fidelity systems, which is like what we would expect from something like Dwarf Fortress. I mean, do you have a sense of, there are a number of games in this kind of genre, of course. Clockwork Empires is one of them. RimWorld is one of them. I mean, do you have a sense of which Oxygen Not Included resembles most closely, or is it really kind of its own beast?
I don't know, man. It resembles a good amount of RimWorld and kind of Dwarf Fortress in that sense, but I guess there's less like combat. I think you can eventually get attacked by something, but there are different biomes. This is what it's showing right now, is like zoomed out a little bit. Like this is like there are different sections of the world. So that's a biome that's actually hotter. That's the heat map that it's showing right now. And so you can dig through to different biomes. One of the things I really like about the game too is that they all have stress levels. Your guys all have stress levels.
Oh yeah.
And they get more or less stressed out depending on like a bunch of different factors. If they got good food, if they got good sleep, if they're being overworked, or if they're comfortable, all that sort of stuff. And one of the things that affects their stress is literally entitlement.
I love this.
As the duplicants live in your colony longer, they become more entitled, which means that they feel they deserve better lodgings. So in games, other games like one of the ones I've talked about last week, Stonehearth, where developing cool-looking buildings or nicer kind of digs for people is more just like an aesthetic thing than anything else. This is like, if you don't make your base aesthetically pleasing, then they will get upset with you, and they'll freak out. They can mentally break down, and there's like they each have different traits, and like one of those traits is like if they get too unhappy, they'll just start breaking shit and freaking out.
Man.
And like on top of that, like it goes further into that too. Like they'll get stressed and oh god, I completely blanked now. Like there's just so many things in this damn game.
Yeah, I mean, people can watch the video if they want to dig. It's a really intricate,
it's amazing
experience. But good to know that's your guys' favorite thing.
Yeah.
What else? What else did you see though?
James, why don't you go? I've just been talking.
This is coming out 2017. Is that right?
Actually, I think they said
Are they gonna do early access?
I think they said they were going to try to hit early access in like winter, so it might be this year even. The trailer that they released actually at the PC Gaming Show had the little thing say like just flipping between late 2016, early 2017.
Yeah.
So they're hoping for early access, by the end of the year, early next year.
Okay.
It's just oh god, James, you talk.
Oh yeah,
I'm
no,
too excited.
I understand. I saw a lot of things that really surprised me. One in particular, I'm wearing the shirt right now, reppin', is Thimbleweed Park, an adventure game by Ron Gilbert. Well, Terrible Toy Box, headed up by Ron Gilbert. And they did a Kickstarter, I don't know how many years back at this point, probably 2, for this adventure game. It's done in the style, at least, of some old school stuff. Maniac Mansion. And, when you had a whole list of verbs to choose from. And it's got this really nice pixel art. And the basic story is that a murder happens in this town. There are some supernatural happenings surrounding it, and you solve adventure game puzzles, switching between 5 different characters. Sometimes those characters in the puzzles overlap in complex ways. So it's very traditional. There's not really much to say about it that's new in terms of overall design. But I just think the presentation and the overall just smooth look of it feels like a modern game despite being such a throwback.
Yeah.
And I think just they've done a few things to it as well that kind of mitigate the frustrations you might feel with adventure games, being getting into the mindset of adventure game logic, which is sort of an antiquated design path in that you have to take on the mindset of the character and sort of think like a game designer, like a funny game designer. Like, okay, what would this person logically think would work? Oh, it's a rubber chicken pulley, In this, they have 2 modes. One is an easy mode, and one is like a classic or hard mode. And the classic mode keeps all that weird, convoluted puzzle solving there if you want it. The classic mode, or the easy mode, solves a lot of the weirder stuff for you. Still gives you a few puzzles and says, okay, you got to combine items and do things, but is much more streamlined in that way. So if you have never played a game like this, you can still get through and feel like you've done things instead of just clicking through dialogue and moving from scene to scene. So that was really cool to me, and just the character and personality in the setting.
It's sort of inspired by Twin Peaks and X-Files. One of the characters looks like Scully. Is that right?
Yeah. You basically have 2 agents, sort of so it's a total callback to a lot of that stuff.
And the characters. So you switched between 5 of them. Do you choose when you switch to them, or
eventually? Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes. So it's I got to look at a couple of them, but the one in particular, they're all introduced sort of from the perspective of these agents who meet them over time or get their backstory, and then you get a playable prologue in which you're introduced to these characters. I met one, Dolores, I think, and her background is her uncle is this kind of kooky inventor who's maybe lost a bit of joy, and he's the owner of a pillow factory. Just some weird, and you are inheritor of this pillow factory from your uncle, but you instead want to be a game designer. So you like go out to the or the post office and get your favorite gaming magazine, which rhymes with Lucasfilm, and apply, and sort of you have to find objects that create ink, and you have to steam, like as a callback to Maniac Mansion, you have to steam a stamp off of an envelope and put it onto another. It's just like some really silly stuff.
Cool. Well, I think, looking at the footage now, it definitely conveys how much value there is still in this specific style of art, like the Maniac Mansion style.
Oh, it looks so
more
good.
1632-bit style art. It looks great.
Yeah, really nice. Any other things, Tom?
Oh, so many, James.
What else?
Let's see.
What you got next?
We can
Run through some.
pander to Evan for a sec.
Oh gosh.
I got to play BattleTech, man.
Ooh.
And oh god, it's so good. Is basically all I have to say about
Even as
that.
early as it is,
Yeah,
right?
this is some super early, they call it the super pre-alpha version of the game.
Yeah, if you look in the upper right corner of this footage we're about to watch, it's 007
Yeah.
version.
0.0.7. It's crazy early, and even then, it looks a little rough to me. That's what I was noticing. Is it's a lot of gray and brown and a little bit of green thrown in. Like but I hope that will change over time. And the thing is that the game mechanics that they have in the game so far are so fun and so good, even early. Like there are things that in the game that aren't even in there yet. Like there's going to be melee and there's going to be charging people and stuff like that. But that stuff's just not in there yet. And even without it, it's just great. It's just great.
What's exciting is that stuff has never really been done in any MechWarrior game, Melee in particular. And it is part of the lore. If like you read the books and stuff, there's mechs that. There's one called the Axe Man. It's probably the most identifiable one that literally carries this little hatchet. So yeah, Tom, as someone who is not a big BattleTech or MechWarrior guy,
I liked MechWarrior, but I don't know any of the old stuff.
my mistake. But coming into this, like, what surprised you or what delighted you?
I loved the free form nature of the battlefield a lot. And I know that it was a handcrafted battlefield. It wasn't like procedurally generated or anything, but it was really, really refreshing to not have a grid-based strategy game like this. And I think that comes from the tabletop game.
Well, the tabletop game is hex-based.
Oh, okay.
And, it's usually larger boards, but I get what you're saying. It's not about like, this is a 64 by 64 grid and you can only be on these certain coordinates as opposed to this is a game of degrees.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Where
if you move too far, you can't rotate your mech all the way around and stuff like that. Like you can see here, especially this section of the map, it's really rough and weird and like there's lots of ups and downs and rocks in the way. And so I loved the fact that it wasn't just this like flat thing. And I compare this most to XCOM and XCOM 2, which I love those games. I'm not trying to brag on XCOM because I think XCOM 2 was like one of the best games to come out this year, you know? But it was really refreshing to just have like little hills that you can walk on, you know?
And when you think about how important facing is in BattleTech, in MechWarrior, where you literally have rear armor and you're more vulnerable like a tank, basically.
That's what is in this game as well.
It starts to make a lot of sense because if you can only face in, even if it's hex-based, like, 6 or 4 different directions, it just doesn't make sense. You need to be able to rotate that 360 degrees and you need to make those little fine adjustments in order to get kills.
Something I'm also really looking forward to for the final game that wasn't really shown in the demo itself and couldn't be really was the out-of-game progression. They kept talking about this thing between the flesh and the metal. Is that what it's called? I think that's the term Jordan Weissman, the creator of BattleTech, used, where the flesh being the person inside the suit and the metal or whatever the term he used being the mech itself, and how they level up and upgrade and expand differently. So you could lose a mech or a mech could be really badly damaged, but your pilot is still fine and your pilot still grows. And if you lose the pilot, it's like really severe compared to losing the mech.
Interesting.
So I'm excited for some of that out of fight progression. But it was just a very cool game. And one, I'm really excited to restart a million times when I lose a guy and that sort of stuff, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's really promising. In this video, you could see that there was some voice acting in some of the characters, which is encouraging. If you played Mech Commander, I think you remember even just like the death howl of a certain character you remember kind of sticks in your mind, the way they say their call sign and stuff like that. So hopefully they kind of amp that up. Very interested to see how they handle mech customization, which, again, not shown in this build. We don't have a sense of how it's going to work. Sky's kind of the limit in terms of how deep they could go in terms of like you're placing every individual heat sink, and there are 10 versions of a PPC you can tweak and all this kind of customization. Or do they go with a more accessible, in between kind of compromise that you're choosing between 4 different variants of a hunchback and like making a handful of adjustments rather than customizing everything, like armor allocations to the head and the rear, the rear torsos and stuff like that. So I think that's a big question, like how deep they go on that, how aggressively hardcore and kind of old school battles they go on that. I think there are a number of good outcomes, which is good. They have some room to work with there, but yeah, encouraging.
Also, a kind of cool note is we might not have to wait very long to play that one.
Really?
Because they just reopened basically their Kickstarter backer tier rewards or tiers. So you can quote unquote back the game now as like a late responder sort of thing. And you will get the rewards of the game as if you were a Kickstarter backer like during the campaign. Cool. So basically it means you can pre-order the game, and if you pre-order it at the tier that you got like the backer beta version, that backer beta is going to be coming this year. So it's actually not far away in the next few months. If you do that, you'll get to play it. Obviously, whether or not you want to do that is up to you. It's just that like for someone like Evan who's crazy excited about BattleTech, like not so far away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be cynical. They certainly probably made that build in order to open up the pricing tiers to everybody else again, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that's a much better thing to do than asking for money without showing people anything. I am surprised they've come along this quickly. I forget exactly when the Kickstarter closed, but it couldn't have been more than a year ago.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. But, I mean, they've got this Kickstarter thing down. I mean, Shadowrun.
Yeah.
I think BattleTech raised about $2.5 million. These guys really know what they're doing, honestly, in that regard. Like, they know how to plan a project and execute it and get it online quickly. I mean, obviously, they don't have the campaign built yet, seemingly, and even what they were showing, they kept saying 70% was like the figure they were showing in terms of just features in the game before it like exits an alpha or pre-alpha phase. But yeah. And
Harebrained Schemes, the developer, they have also proven that they're willing to support things when they get it wrong. Like they're basically relaunching Necropolis pretty soon, because that game launched to not like terrible reviews, but like pretty mediocre ones. Yeah. And when I talked to them at PAX about Necropolis as well, they were very candid about they said we thought we got a lot of really, really good constructive criticism, and we decided to just respond to it and release an update.
That's cool.
Which is, it's noble. It shows that even when they'll listen and they'll accept their faults and stuff like that, which is really it's noble, as I said. Okay, Evan, is there anything you were excited to see that you'd want to hear about if we got to play?
Oh gosh,
there's a lot of stuff.
I mean, Mirage wasn't there, was it?
No, Mirage Arcane Warfare was there. I got to play.
Yeah. Okay.
I got to play that. I played it at PAX East. That's the combat game, the kind of fantasy combat game from the guy who did Chivalry Medieval Warfare.
Yeah, the guy's up in Toronto. So I'll just ask one question about that, which is I watched the most recent gameplay footage, which looked good. It's an incredibly slow game. Yeah, I think in a very deliberate way. So when I talked to them, they talked about like they want to build this first-person melee fantasy game. It's based on Chivalry, but it has magic in it. It's very surreal. I think the art style is great, but they wanted to build it like a fighting game where you can see like this attack coming in, and you can counter it, you can react to it in time. So you're not just spamming buttons.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not just you're
I like that.
ramming mouse 1 and your ability keys.
Yeah.
Like a MOBA or something. So when you got a chance to play it, I want to know like how that pace in particular struck you as like, oh, actually it is a little bit too slow, or I'm not moving quickly enough, or did it make sense?
So funny enough, when I was playing the game, one of the developers was with me, kind of coaching me through it a bit, and specifically asked me at one point, "Do you think the movement is too slow?"
Interesting.
And
you can kind of see it right here.
And the way he put it, and the way he said that they were getting feedback that I actually pretty much agree with, is in combat, no, the game does not feel slow. It feels dead on exactly how fast or slow it should be, because it's very tactical and you're thinking about a lot of things, especially when you're in not just in 1v1 but like in a big brawl. You have to be thinking about a lot of stuff. Out of combat, the movement is pretty damn slow. And interestingly, the developer said to me, he said, we get a lot of people who think it's slow who come from Overwatch, who think, man, like I'm used to just this super fast-paced game, and then they get to Overwatch and it's way, way slower.
Even this map a little bit resembles some of the areas of Overwatch.
This is one of their most beautiful maps too that they did, and the level design is great in the game. I think.
I want to be clear, like I do not want them to build a Overwatch with swords. I think that would be a terrible.
And it's not that. It doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, like I want an entirely different style and philosophy driving this game, and it seems like what they're going for. You can see there are like kind of lunge attacks and dashes and stuff like that that accelerate you. I was just sort of curious to hear from you, like, does it just sort of feel like movement isn't really a part of the game because you're trudging along through these kind of conventionally sized. This could be a TF2 map. This could be an Overwatch map if you look at it. Yeah,
no, it feels very slow out of combat, and it feels pretty much just right in combat.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah. James, would you like to call one out?
I think one question I had going in and was, is Gears of War going to be on the PC? Gears of War 4, excuse me. Is it going to be running on PC at PAX? And it was. I got to play it twice. Once in the Horde mode, which is sort of a wave-based cooperative mode, and another time just on the like a 10-minute campaign demo, and it ran beautifully. I played with a mouse and keyboard for the campaign mode, at least.
You're playing at 4K?
Yeah,
right?
For Horde mode, I was playing at 4K, and it was butter. I mean, again, I don't know the specs of the PC, but it didn't look like it was, some, tower size.
Double Titan something.
So it's reassuring because I think with the Universal Windows app sort of initiative that Windows 10 is bringing to the table, and with Microsoft's first-party titles, when they said they were bringing these games to the PC, there wasn't, 100% enthusiasm because some of the games they've released in the past have been less than ideal ports. Quantum Break was just a problem and still is for a lot of people. The Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which is maybe why I was especially concerned for Gears of War 4. When I played it, when it came out, it was a slideshow on one of our best PCs.
A shame.
So, I personally am not hugely into the campaign gameplay of Gears of War 4. It feels surprisingly, unevolved and unchanged, which for a lot of people I think is fine. But the Horde mode I think is really cool because you can play with people on the Xbox too, if you want, and it's a more tactical, fun way to go about playing a cover shooter. I mean, you have this base you can move around to anywhere in the level, and you exchange kills for fortifications. And it just gets more progressively. It's just a really cool, way to play this kind of
interesting bartering system. I'll trade you these corpses for these defenses.
Yeah. Money climbs out of the grubs. So I mean,
Horde mode is it's like waves of dudes coming at you.
Waves of dudes coming at you.
Defenses.
Cooperative. I think there's like 5 of us in there total. So I mean, at the very least, even if Gears of War isn't your thing, this is at least an indication of, hopefully, Microsoft's first-party PC games running smoothly and having options, even if it's still using the Universal Windows app format, which we still don't entirely like, but it's just a sign of good things to come.
Cool. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
They just showed a fire tornado.
Yeah.
And they called it a wind flare.
Oh.
And I don't know why you would ever not call something a fire tornado if it was a fire tornado. But they also, it's probably nice to point out that they weren't being very coy with the PC version. Like, they were kind of being a little bit coy with the mouse and keyboard controls, but, like, Gears of War 4 was just on a laptop in the Alienware booth, right, with mouse and keyboard controls. And obviously it was Alienware booth, so it probably had some like super big computer they were showing off or whatever. But like they just had like it wasn't like quarantined in the Microsoft booth.
It's a sign of confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Made me happy.
I'm excited to see where that goes as well. One of the dumber things I played that was a lot of fun was the Rick and Morty VR game.
Right.
Virtual Reality, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
And it's made by the people who do
Job Simulator.
Yeah. And it felt basically like Job Simulator, but with Rick and Morty yelling at you in Jerry's garage the entire time. And yeah, it was fine. It was just a lot of fun. It was super silly and had it's Justin Roiland is a huge VR nut, so he like was part of. He did the voices and he probably wrote a lot of it, and it was funny and it was very, very, very faithful to the show world, and that was a lot of fun.
I think Justin Roiland is exactly what VR needs.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's exactly. I mean, if you look at Oculus and you look at HTC and even on the mobile platforms, obviously, there have been some stuff that's coming out, but they're really lacking something to hold up and say like, this is what VR can be, and like, check it out, like. Come get on this cool, crazy train with us. And what better person to be ridiculous? I mean, you got a chance to talk to Justin Roiland, James. I don't know if you can talk more about that, but God, I mean, the show is like such like the show itself, like thinks about VR in some interesting ways and time travel. And I think it really takes that kind of creative mind who's kind of used to having no rules. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it just really makes sense.
Yeah, and I can say like at least what their philosophy is for their I got to talk to Squanch Tendo in general. His new VR.
Squanch Tendo.
Squanch Tendo is the new VR gaming company with Justin Roiland behind it. And it inspired a lot of confidence in me because he's a guy he's not coming from games. He's coming from entertainment. Just like he purely wants to entertain people. And I think a lot of developers, when they saw VR, they said, okay, how can we sort of take what we know and put it into this medium?
Yeah.
And Justin's just like loose, creative, has ideas that don't like fit into the mold of anything you've necessarily seen in video games before. And I think that kind of creative spirit and freeform attitude is perfect for VR going forward.
I mean, the dream is that he builds the Roy game from the show. So if you haven't seen Rick and Morty, which you should, I think it's a season 2 episode where they go to this place called it's like basically a sci-fi Dave and Buster's Blips and Chips, and they play this game called Roy. It's like it's a VR game where you live an entire life of a character, kind of, and it's sort of. The way it's framed is like it's a representation of your spirit a little bit. So Morty plays through, and he's like a high school quarterback, and then he sort of has this fall from grace, and he becomes a carpet salesman. And it's a little depressing, but it's like, all right, you got
sweet though.
You got Roy to like age 65, and you overcame cancer. Good job. And like, that's your high score basically, like how you live your life. And then Rick jumps in, and he immediately like. Burns his social security card or something, Roy's social security card. And he's like, and people start crowding around. He's like, oh, they're taking Roy off the grid. And he's like leaving society or civilization or something. Cause it's like a contemporary, I don't know, that's like an unbelievable experience. It would take millions and millions of dollars to create something that intricate, obviously. But I don't know. It's just evidence that, Justin Roiland has some wild and crazy ideas that I hope he acts on.
There's a reference to that in the Rick and Morty VR game, actually, because there's all these boxes on a shelf in the garage, and if you kind of rifle through one of the boxes, there's like an SNES cartridge that says Roy 2 the D-Make or something like that.
Nice.
So it's self-aware as well. Actually, I wanted to highlight another game that really surprised me, and I want to find footage of it to kind of better explain it, but we didn't actually record anything. It's this game out of Australia called Death Squared. I think it premiered actually in PAX Australia. Here's a trailer from GameSpot that I can pull up after one of their unskippable ads. But it's a couch co-op puzzle game for either 2 or 4 players, or 1 if you're willing to control 2 characters, or 3 if you're willing to control 2 characters, basically, where you control these little colored robots. It's by a company called SMG. You control these little colored robots on kind of like a gridded thing, and you're trying to get to a little circle of the same color as you. But as you move, things in the environment just kind of change. So, like, if the blue guy moves to a certain spot, maybe there'll be blue spikes that pop up. And blue things, your own color things don't hurt you, but they kill other people. So there's all these times where, like, if you move, then it will move a laser of your color that is pointing at someone else. And so you have to, like, body block the laser for them as you move around the level. And then if they move, it moves the spikes that are under somebody else. And then when that person moves away from the spikes, it moves a platform that pushes another one of the colors off the edge. And it's this puzzle game where you're just trying to figure out who moves first, basically, and what order you walk in and or roll. And it was one of the most fun things I played on the show floor. And Death Squared was just like, it was a blast. And I was playing with 3 random people, and at the end of it, we were like high-fiving, and like, you know, it was like this bonding experience. It was one of the only local co-op puzzle games that I'd played that it didn't feel like any one person was in charge or even could be in charge. Because, like, there was that thing where when I was even playing, like, Portal 2 co-op, like, one person who was playing Portal 2 co-op would be the person solving the puzzle.
They're quarterbacking. But.
Yeah. And, like, because of the nature of the game, where, like, of Death Squared, where, like, everything is interconnected and there are so many different factors and only certain things happen by certain people, and not, like, pressing buttons just, like, happen because you move. Like, you have to just be talking to each other, and everyone needs to have a voice. And it was really, really, really fun.
Sounds like something we should play in the office.
Definitely. Definitely.
Cool. Let's take some questions.
Yeah, let's open it up to Twitch chat. So you guys tag us with @PCGamer in the Twitch chat if you'd like to ask us anything about PC gaming. If you have more questions about Battlefield 1, or if you saw something at PAX West, or maybe you were there, or maybe you heard about something and you want to see if we played it, like, let us know. Just tag us with @PCGamer, and we'll answer your question. And subscribers of our Twitch channel will get to you as quickly as we can. And of course, if you're watching on youtube.com/PCGamer, or at PCGamer.com/podcast, or on iTunes, or wherever, you're always welcome to come join us at twitch.tv/PCGamer at 1 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesdays to answer your questions. I'm going to take one before I get to these first questions that I know is going to come up, which is Mass Effect Andromeda. So while we're waiting for questions to roll in, drop them in the chat. Let's take a look at this gameplay video, which just got shown, is the very, very first actual gameplay footage, I believe, of Mass Effect Andromeda.
There were some short clips, like, from E3, I think.
Okay.
In a montage, but this is like the first.
So this just got premiered at the Sony conference that was happening at like noon today. Is probably already over by now. And so this is PS4 pre-alpha gameplay of Mass Effect Andromeda. If you're watching on the podcast, I think just Googling that should find you the video. What are you guys' initial impressions? Obviously, it's missing a UI. He just scanned a plant.
Nice.
Which is interesting.
Plant scanning confirmed.
I'm into it.
Oh, boo.
Confirmed.
Can we cut his mic? How do we do that?
I mean, I don't want to. I love Mass Effect. I hate to sound like a negative Nancy. I'm a little underwhelmed.
Same.
I'm happy to see this. I'm happy to see what the game looks like and kind of get a better sense of it. But
it's pretty.
And I understand, you know, they have to be very deliberate about what they show. They can't, you know, they want to save kind of the best stuff for later events and whatever. But it's a lot of just kind of walking, pressing the button, walk some more. Big door opens. You know, there's a cinematic moment at the end where you're watching a cutscene and they're kind of attacked after they enter this area and they have to escape. So not a lot of sort of real interesting gameplay for me to think about and kind of dig my hooks into and speculate on.
It's important to note that I'm pretty sure this gameplay was used as like a tech demo for the new 4K of like the PlayStation 4
PlayStation Pro
extra, the PlayStation Pro. So it probably is mainly just to show off the prettiness, but yeah, it's interesting. It's like a weird kind of. I just don't understand why they decided to show this off as the first gameplay, like extended gameplay.
It's kind of just nondescript, alien, angular architecture. I guess if anything, like the smaller tidbits get me excited. One being scanning plants. I know that's silly, but it maybe points toward a more exploration-based, design. I think they've talked about that in the past too. You're kind of heading to some more, outer rim worlds and looking at, you're going to find some truly alien stuff. And some of the alien design or whatever the hell we saw, robots, looked bizarre. So that's cool.
Oh, wow. Are you excited about discovering new life forms? And
I knew you were going to, someone's going to go there.
do you think you can name them maybe?
Oh my gosh.
Do you think they're procedurally generated?
Probably
perhaps?
not. Probably
Oh,
not.
that'd be
Probably
cool.
not.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
This is a good idea for a game.
Yeah.
Someone should try this.
you guys. It looks like you're a guy running around.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be more to Mass Effect Andromeda than that, but I really wish they would have shown some dialogue. I mean, again, there's a cutscene there, but they didn't show have they changed the dialogue system in any meaningful way? Like, is it still kind of the 3-choice system with other options based on your character stats or whatever?
Are we still popping into cover for combat? And I don't know. It's just hard to say. No one really knows the shape
so,
of it.
very little to go on. Looks pretty, maybe a little bit dark. But
Hooray.
kind of just looks like more Mass Effect right now. So I guess we'll wait and see.
Cool.
All right, let's take a couple questions. Chris86, one of our longtime subscribers, asks, did you notice any trends at PAX?
Trends, less VR.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. And I wasn't even going to say less VR. I was going to say less emphasis on VR.
Sure.
Instead of like the trend at the last couple PAXs, especially before the Rift and the Vive officially released, was you'd have like 4 booths that all they were doing was VR, and the lines for those booths would fill up within 5 seconds of the day starting.
Yeah.
And the trend at this show was like a smattering of random booths would just have like their game, and then also a VR headset if you want to try their game in VR. And all the VR demos were cool, but they didn't have lines, and they were like a lot of them were good too. They just didn't have lines. They were very casually like, oh yeah, you can play the game on Oculus if you want. A lot more touch. There were at least 4 or 5 Oculus Touch controller demos there.
Yeah.
I played this game called Blind. That was you're a blind person, a blind woman in the game, and everything is black, and you have a cane in your left hand, and when you tap the ground, it kind of sends out a sound wave and reveals the area around it. So that game was cool. So yeah, VR was just kind of a little more cash.
Yeah, and otherwise, like, I think it's a good sign that I can't, like, immediately think of a single trend I saw in the games cropping up. Because there's just a huge diversity.
How about the quantity of roguelikes? How would you say
I would
that
say,
compares?
okay, that is true, and something I might complain about in the future. But there's a lot of roguelikes and a lot of games that use systems from roguelikes, and a lot of systems-heavy games, which can be great, but it kind of it keeps me hesitant, because to truly pull off like a systems-heavy roguelike game, Spelunky is still sort of top tier for me, and unless you can come close, I know it's maybe unfair to compare, but unless you're going to do something super refined, like I think a lot of the systems get muddy and experiences get muddy over time.
I mean, the Dwarf Fortress guys have been doing it for a decade plus, so...
Yeah.
They're adding, this is only semi-related, but reminds me, Binding of Isaac is getting its Afterbirth Plus addition to its DLC. Because Afterbirth is its DLC, and Afterbirth Plus is coming out, and in that they announced that they're going to have mod support, like full mod tools that are the same tools they use to make the game.
That's cool.
So that's going to be their final update to Binding of Isaac, but it's also going to build modding. So it's on the roguelike front, in that sense, it's like, I like that roguelike is stepping away and just like letting its community do its thing, which is nice. Let's see a couple other questions. Panzer2, another subscriber, asks, what's your take on the Arc paid DLC releasing in early access?
Good call out.
Nice.
That's a good question. So for those of you who didn't know, I'll give a little recap. Ark is getting a DLC pack called Scorched Earth. It's gotten a DLC
available.
pack.
Top sellers on Steam.
This is Ark Survival Evolved. It basically adds an entire new island, a new place to the game that's more desert themed. Where a lot of its free updates were like adding biomes. This is just like a new map.
And some new features and weapons and like creatures.
Yep.
Yeah, and so the controversy around this, which I think is totally valid controversy, is they're still in early access and they're releasing paid DLC, which is kind of weirdly mixed messages because early access kind of implies we're working on finishing the game and paid DLC implies this is outside of the scope of the game. So, like, why is it not just part of the base game, basically? Or why is the game not just out? Because Ark is a pretty, like, full game as it is. What do you guys take on that?
Oh, man. It's a big and messy topic. We should perhaps bring up their response.
Yeah.
Which I found a little bit lacking, not to be too critical. Hey, let's kind of agree that early access is a very subjective label. First of all, it's a category that I think people are using in a lot of different ways. Some of which that's a good thing. To have that flexibility where early access doesn't necessarily mean you need to be in this stage of your development where you're 6 months out, or what about multiplayer games? All that kind of stuff. So it's not a one-size-fits-all category. Well, actually, I'm sorry, it is a one-size-fits-all category. It's not. Doesn't have like some inherent meaning behind it. It's uncomfortable. I do think they should have kind of done a better job messaging at the very least of, hey, here's what we're doing with this. I think like one of the things to their credit or in their defense, I guess, like, a lot of people sometimes conflate the idea of like, hey, there's this massive bug in the game right now, and you just released like a bunch of new skins.
Yeah, not the same thing.
Like you released this cosmetic stuff, and yet this like netcode issue is still in place. Like, what's the deal? Fix this. Like, why are you making this? But in fact, like two entirely different teams of people are working on those issues. So when you think about a game developer, isn't like a pool of people who are all kind of, available to do anything at any time. People are really divided, and they have roadmaps and timelines and deadlines and stuff like that. So, that's maybe one thing to consider here. But at the same time, yeah, you're sending a mixed message where the game isn't done. We're not comfortable calling it released. We're not comfortable saying it's finished. But we're comfortable releasing an expansion on our unfinished game. That's a total contradiction.
Completely. Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's.
And it sucks because it looks amazing. We should bring
it
some
looks
footage.
rad.
Yeah,
It's
it
fucking
looks
incredible.
really good.
I want to ride a mantis into battle. There's like a gladiatorial battle arena. There's like lava rivers. There's like all these really. I think Ark is probably the most beautiful survival game in terms of raw visual fidelity.
Here, let's pull it up.
All the little canyons and like I want to go in these dungeons. I don't even play Ark. This stuff looks really gorgeous to me. And I know it's in a trailer, but and all these dragons, but like
Dragons.
man, I mean, I just think I wish these guys would have paid attention to like the negative responses the many negative responses we've had to DLC and
God, it's so predictable, right?
well,
Like they had to know this reaction was coming.
Payday 2. Look at that community, Rocket League. Even when they, all that stuff was just cosmetic, there was some negative response. So, yeah. Maybe they didn't anticipate it. I don't know, but gosh, I mean, this looks really cool and fun. So it's a little bit of a shame here, and I understand that according to the Steam stats, it is, or at least was selling well. God, lava rivers,
Flying dragons over lava rivers. What game are we playing again? Like,
That's my favorite dinosaur.
what's going on?
I don't know. The truth is, like, there's no policing. It really is on the community and on gamers to make their voice heard. When they feel upset about this kind of business practices, I guess. Valve isn't going to get involved. I doubt that. Valve is about as laissez-faire as they get in terms of publishers or stores. So, yeah. We're bothered by it, but at the same time, it looks like cool content. And I guess the argument, if you want to play super devil advocate, is like, well, what if this like new money helps them finish the game faster?
Right.
I don't know. That's like such a crazy hypothetical. Gosh, do you want to like show me their financial books and stuff, and we can
It's not gonna happen.
walk through that?
Yeah.
All right, we got one more subscriber question, again from JBJ Blaze, who dropped it in at the beginning and then had to run. As much as one would truly doubt it, do you guys think that that since Microsoft has taken the stick out of their butts over not releasing on Steam, maybe EA would follow suit again, maybe release Battlefield 1 on Steam? I think EA is going to do exactly what it wants to do because it just prints money a lot in a big way. I think Microsoft has not yet proven that they're just going to start releasing stuff on Steam. I think that probably Quantum Break releasing on Steam was not like driven by Microsoft. It was probably driven by the makers of Quantum Break, who I'm blanking on the studio name right now. Remedy, thank you. I think that was probably more Remedy's doing than Microsoft. So we'll see if things like Gears, I highly doubt Gears is releasing on Steam. Let's put it that way. Or at least on launch.
Yeah, probably not a launch.
A couple interesting things, though, out of PAX on this similar topic. Gigantic, a game I've been excited for a long time, which Motiga, the developer, almost went under and had to partner with Perfect World to actually publish the game, is now no longer doing Windows 10 exclusive because Perfect World was like, no, basically. And on top of that, a really interesting trend, I guess, out of PAX that we saw, every single game in the Microsoft booth was playable on PC, which is the first time I have seen that at a convention, maybe ever, is that if you walked into the Xbox booth, you could play any of that stuff on PC. Maybe not on the show floor, but eventually.
There was a big focus on that at E3. It's great to see. To answer JBJ's question, I think EA and Origin and Microsoft and the Windows Store are in completely different situations in terms of them releasing their games on Steam. For EA, it's simply a revenue thing. Do you want to make 30% more money on your massive blockbuster games, Tom?
Maybe.
Like, you make Mass Effect, you make FIFA, you make Battlefield.
But wait, can I make 30% more money on my massive games and have Steam trading cards?
I'm afraid not. You have to give those up.
Then that's a hard choice.
So, I mean, it's. I'm sure that's just an easy sell for them. I would be very surprised if, I don't know, I would love to actually hear from some of our readers and our listeners about whether games being only available on Origin has actually deterred them from picking up something like Mass Effect or Battlefield 1. Like, is that going to make you shy away? It's another launcher and it's another login. For me, like, I care about the game, Obviously Steam is preferable, but big deal. For Microsoft, it's about making good with PC gamers, and what better way to do that than say, hey, we're willing to release our games on Steam. We're confident in them, and we want to show you that we're involved with the PC gaming community, and we're committed to the platform and X, Y, and Z. So instead of making you come into a proprietary thing that you don't like, we're going to extend that olive branch. So I think it's completely different motivations. I don't think there's a chance of EA releasing new games on Steam anytime soon. Origin hasn't become its own thing, I would say. I think they're certainly far behind in terms of features and whatnot and being its own ecosystem. It is kind of a winner-take-all thing in terms of being a launcher. I think it's great that we have a lot of different stores on PC that can compete in terms of sales. Although it's been cool to see that Origin, they release a lot of free games
they do
now
some
and
good
then
stuff.
that you can pick up. So I think that's a cool incentive that there's only so many of those that they have in their library, I think. But yeah, I don't think there's a chance of Battlefield 1 or the next Mass Effect releasing on Steam.
Couple of responses to what you said, Evan. Daniel Montano says, I can respect Origin, somehow can't respect the Windows Store. Chris says, Steam is not all smiles and rain and sunshine. I prefer GOG, which is, that's valid as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, there's a couple. I mean, like, I've kind of gotten over Origin. I just don't like having to launch another launcher. Like, I'd rather everything be on one thing, but like, I kind of don't care about like the proprietariness of it anymore.
It's not bad. It's like lightweight enough, which is like one of the qualities I look for most in those kind of things, where it's just not slow and I don't have to click a bunch of times to get what I want. It's mainly like keyboard shortcuts that I forget and friends lists and whatnot, obviously, and voice chat.
All right, there was a nice question way up at the top. The first question asked from Varendil, with another new DLC coming to Europa Universalis 4 soon, I was wondering what you guys think of Paradox's general business DLC and DLC pricing model. That's an interesting question. I think Paradox does fine. Like, I think Paradox has proven that they're willing to just update games as well as release DLC for them. And that's the important thing to me, is that if they were like, because they do a lot of DLC. That's like a totally valid criticism and totally something valid to be like upset by or dislike. But if they weren't updating their games and they weren't like trying to actively make them better outside of DLC, I'd agree that it's like kind of lame. But they found a business model that works for them, which is like release games at a slightly lower than AAA price and then just like provide new content every once in a while for DLC price.
Yeah, if I can play businessman for a moment, which is always super fun to be a. It's not my background, but you've got to think for a game like Europa and the hardcore strategy games that they're making in general. I think they've done a fabulous job of evangelizing those experiences, and players have done a lot of that work for them and saying like, here's why you should play Crusader Kings, even though it's kind of tough to get into in some ways. Because you're going to have these interesting historical stories that only you will know and walk away with. But like, are you going to get 3 million people into that game? Are you going to get 5 million people into that game? Like, what's your strategy for doing that? I think you have to, if I'm them, I'm saying I have to find ways to make more money out of my existing audience rather than grow and find a bunch of new people. And I think they've arguably done both. I think they've. What I'm saying is they've expanded the limits of those games, their audience, probably as far as they can, plus or minus. And DLC makes sense as a viable strategy in that way of just like working with your existing community and listening to them and saying like, hey, what do you guys want? We'll make it. Like, yeah, you'll have to pay $10, $20 for it, but we'll make it. I mean, so far Stellaris has done a fabulous job of being super transparent. I feel like they have this big dev blog every like 10 days or something that's walking through like, okay, here's all the stuff that's coming and all the new fixes we've rolled out. And yeah, by the way, like we're building this like weird alien race and, it's going to be part of this DLC, whatever. But, if you want it. So that's been a really promising sign. I guess I'm not familiar with like Europa pricing or Crusader Kings pricing. I guess I should look at that, but I don't know. That's the way I think about it strategically, I guess.
Good answer.
We had one question that has now disappeared off the top, but asking if Planet Coaster was at PAX, and I don't believe it was at PAX, but we're playing the alpha right now.
Yeah, I'm about 6 or 7 hours into the alpha or something like that, and there's no direction in the alpha. There might be a challenge mode, I don't know, but I think the real appeal is the sandbox. I think we have an article going up today or sometime soon by Chris that really...
It's already up.
Is it up? It's amazing. Chris Livingston wrote this amazing article on Planet Coaster. Do check it out. But it kind of his is funnier and illustrates some of the systems in a very particular way. But if you go to the Planet Coaster subreddit or something like that, you can just see the pure breadth of the building and customization systems. People have made coasters that and then built like basically houses around them with small like pop-up attractions that, along the path that turn them into a haunted house or something like that. And a lot of the building tools, like literal building for buildings tools, basically function like a light version of Maya, where you have X, Y, Z like control and rotation UI elements, and you can move things anywhere, combine them in just about any way, punch holes in the ground, and like sculpt giant weird floating islands if you want. And then layered on top of that is coming a bunch of it's still pretty light right now. I think that's our only criticism of the game is some of the management systems. They're there, but you're not really compelled or pushed to use them in any way. Still, when you're building something like a coaster, stuff that is brought into account is the scenery in the distance and like how attractive not just the coaster itself is, but what people can see.
Oh, wow.
So there's just so much going on in that game, and it's done so beautifully. It runs pretty well, and it really evokes like a theme park. when you put it all together. It's so impressive.
I'm really glad to hear you mention performance because I know we have some good PCs in the office here, which you would expect, but that is something I was concerned about because it was like, oh, is it going to be like a heavy level of simulation? Is it going to like chew into my CPU? It looks gorgeous. I really love the art design. The lighting's maybe a little flat, but
I think yeah. I mean, like if you fill it to the brim, it might get a little chunky. But hey, I mean, like I've filled it with. I made a park with a couple hundred chief beefs just like running around doing their thing, and a coaster, and I made all these and it ran fine. Again, on a mid-range system. So yeah.
Chief beef.
I'm trying to find that video you posted.
We have to
Get off my Twitter.
we have to do a best character of 2016 because we've already had like at least 3 serious contenders for best character. Chief Beef is one of them. Tom.
It's the Loot Rascal guy. Just give up right now.
He's also one of them, but I mean, Chief Beef. I can really interact with him. I can make him do stuff. Chief Beef is a like humanoid burger patty, grand marshal with a cool hat, and apparently you can make dozens of them.
Yeah,
which is great.
Oh yeah, I just kept making them because I was curious. Oh yeah, here's my.
Look at this guy. He's got a mustache and he's a burger. How can you not get behind that?
There's a real good shot. And it just goes to show like how
you're in hell.
Yeah, I made this one carousel at the bottom. Yeah, here's this beautiful shot of my chief beefs and the on the horizon right there in my. Yeah.
This is so good.
Video games are art.
Yeah, and they're really happy. The only time I had to.
Is Planet Coaster even a game?
It's they only get sad when you fire them. That's it.
I just love their silhouette.
It's so beautiful.
Patty. And I love that you like lose them as they turn sideways. Okay, we better get out of here because I'm just evolving into admiring the
Chief
Burger
Beef
Man.
Fancast. Favorite burger boy.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, that is all the time that we have for you today. The Chief Beefs are the cap of the
Chiefs Beef.
Chiefs Beef. Chiefs is the plural. Chiefs Beef.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything right about that.
No, so editor in chief.
Okay.
You say editors in chief.
But you don't say editor in chiefs
because we'll get into this. We'll get into this grammatical lesson afterward.
We gotta adjust the style guide for.
But
Chief
I thought
Beef.
his name was Beef, not that it's his title.
Oh my God!
Or is he the Chief Beef?
It's Chiefs Beef. Okay, because I'll explain this. I'll break this down for you, Tom.
James is just signaling to Will to cut the stream as we're doing.
Tweet at us with hashtag Chiefs Beef or Chief Beefs.
What are these characters?
I thought so. I interpreted it as a chief whose name was Beef.
Yeah, exactly. They are chiefs. Okay, so they're plural chiefs, just like editors.
But if I said editor in chief Evan Lottie and I had multiple of you, I would say editor in chief Evan Lotties.
That's an unlikely scenario.
All right, we're killing it right now. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching or listening or whatever. We will be back next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time right here at twitch.tv/PCGamer or youtube.com/PCGamer or PCGamer.com/podcast. And on that last one, you can go and click the latest post, leave us a comment below, and we'll listen to you and read them, and we love you, so please talk to us. We met a lot of really nice fans of the show. Fans, yeah. If you're listening right now, thank you for saying hello to me. To the one person who tweeted at me that I was wearing headphones in a hurry when they saw me, I'm sorry, but we love hearing from you guys, and thank you so much that you enjoy what we are doing. I'll actually be gone next week, so I will be away, but the show will be going on trudging merrily forward without me like usual. And thank you very much, and I guess we will see you then.